10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Growing bolder, what's next?
Well, good morning. I'm Laura Savini. Welcome to Growing Bolder, What's Next? And oh, there's a lot coming up. What's next today? First of all, it's like a dark and stormy day. It is perfect for Halloween Eve. If you can see out the windows behind me, the wind is blowing, the rain is coming down. It's spooky. Now, talking about Halloween, what a Halloween we have. It goes right along with 2020, with this wild year we're having. So did you think about this? So tomorrow, Halloween is on a Saturday. Do you remember Halloween when you were a kid, when it was on a Saturday? I know we just waited. My mom had to give us like the go ahead when it was okay to go knock on people's doors, when it was okay to start going out there and going around the neighborhoods. And I would come home, empty the bag of candy, go back out, get some more. It was like awesome. It was so much fun. I loved Halloween as a kid. So this year we've got it on a Saturday. It's the full moon and the blue moon. Werewolves, anyone? Thinking it could be a scary day. We changed the clocks. That's another thing going on. And we changed the clock. So of course we're gonna have this extra hour to party. But the crazy thing is, it's a pandemic. So we're not going to really be able to go out and trick or treat. You got to think of some options. So we're going to set up a table for the kids out in the front so they don't even have to come up the stairs, let them grab the candy, have some scary stuff on it. I've heard people who are going to be shooting candy through PVC tubes. I don't know what you're going to be doing for the kids at your house, but I hope you come up with a good idea. Coming up today on the show, we are going to have some Halloween treats we're going to make, and you are going to meet Delbert McClinton. Yes, I am so excited. 4-time Grammy winner. He's known as the godfather of Americana music. And maybe you remember, I'm sure you're going to know a lot of his songs, but I'm thinking of Giving It Up for Your Love Every Day. Giving it up for your love right now, right? Okay, I don't know if he's going to sing for us, but he is going to regale us with stories. This man has unbelievable stories. So we've got a lot to get into today, but first I want to show you a little fella that's so cute, and he is not actually wearing a Halloween costume. Look at this guy. He is Pistachio. Pistachio is a green puppy. He was born that way. Can you imagine? He was born green. This is an extremely rare occurrence. He was born on a farm in Sardinia, a little island off of Italy. And the reason he is green, he has 4 siblings, and he's the only one that came out green, is because of this bile pigment, it's called. It's biliverdin, and it's, again, extremely rare. And you find it, you know, when you get a bruise and you see like a little bit of green on your skin, that's biliverdin. Or when a chicken egg is green, that's biliverdin. And it comes from sometimes a dog's placenta. So there's the reason he got in contact with that Pistachio, and he came out green. He's not going to be green forever, alas. The color will fade away. But his owner, Kristen Malachi in Sardinia, said that green means luck and hope. So he kept Pistachio, and Pistachio is going to be a sheep herder on their farm. I love that. He's just adorable. Hey, you know, I want to remind you to write into us as we are here today on the show. Make some comments. We'll put them up on the screen. We want to hear from you and hear what you're going. Oh, well, thank you, Patricia. Look at that. Patricia's already with us this morning, and I'm happy to hear from her. We've got people from all over the country watching us and sharing with us. And now we want to get into the main part of our show, because this is a guest who's anything but green. Our friend, Delbert McClinton. Oh, my word. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He is, as I mentioned, the godfather of Americana music. He's the winner of 4 Grammy Awards. He learned his craft from the likes of Muddy Waters and Jimmy Reed. Now, when I say Muddy Waters and Jimmy Reed, I'm not saying he was listening to them on the radio. He was performing with them. Yeah, he was in the Texas Roadhouses as their backup band. It's just crazy that he got to learn harmonica and singing from these guys. And then, as part of Bruce Chanel's band, he had the mega hit "Hey Baby." Okay, I'm going to sing for you again. Hey baby, I want to know, will you be my girl? Remember that? Now, when you heard that harmonica part, that is Delbert McClinton. Okay, unforgettable, that harmonica part, and some of that he learned from those guys I was just mentioning. He's had some massive pop hits that he has sung that he wrote, and massive hits that others wrote, I think. And then in 2020, at age 79, here's our bold part. He took home another Grammy, his fourth Grammy, just this past year. So without further ado, I bring to you the funny, the fantastic, the very bold Delbert McClinton. Good morning, Delbert.
Ta-da! Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I am so happy to see you again. And
I like
happy
your
it
I
is-
like your hairdo.
You do.
Oh
Thank you.
yeah. How long did it take you to do that?
This is called Just Slept In, put in a pony. But you know, Delbert, you have had such an unbelievable career that I actually did something rather analog today. I made a timeline of your life because there's so much that we need to talk about. But the first thing I wanted to get into is, yes, it's your 80th birthday, and yes, you've been touring for 64 years, but now you've been sidelined, right, by this pandemic. You're not on the road.
No, not at all.
How do you feel about that?
Well, how do you think I feel?
I think you probably miss it.
Well, I do, but I can't imagine going out and with what's going on. I can't imagine going out
Yeah.
and enjoying playing for a bunch of people yahooing around and it's just we got a big mess going on.
We sure do. Now, you know, my husband's a musician as well, as you know, and he's home and he misses it, but he says, no way, I'm not going out there until everybody's safe.
That's absolutely. And for those people who don't think that way, I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say? It's a mess.
It is, but we will prevail and we will keep going. You have your book is called One of the Fortunate Few, and that's a song you wrote. And I actually went back and looked at the lyrics a little bit, and it's a little naughty, that song. But I think
Okay.
but you've taken that to mean more about just the story of your life. Why do you consider yourself one of the fortunate few?
Well, for any number of reasons, I'm still alive. And I've had many opportunities to not be by being foolish. And when you live in the night, your counterparts are night people. And night people are a lot of fun, sometimes too much fun. And it's you gotta watch your step.
You live in the night. I love that. And with the night people. Well, I'm going to turn to our chart here. It says 1940 you were born. Okay, then I give you a few years because you had to get your band together, you had to get your act together. 1957 you get started as a professional musician. And you're, as I mentioned earlier, you were like with the guys, Jimmy Reed, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Sonny Williamson. And was this during 1957 in Texas, in those Texas roadhouses? I would imagine it really wasn't typical for a white kid to be on the stage with these guys.
No, it was actually because back in that time, those guys were still getting played on the radio. You know what I'm saying? And in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up, a station out of Dallas called KNOK, and it was a black station. This was still during segregation. It was a black station, and that's where we discovered and learned all of these guys. It was to look back on the fact that we had KNOK was it was that and XERF Cuna Coahuila, Mexico, with Howlin' Wolf. I'm not Howlin' Wolf, Wolfman Jack, and all that stuff. We could get that on the radio. I've always thought that was a really fortunate thing that we had KNOK radio, because that's where I learned. I remember where I was the first time I heard "Honest I Do" by Jimmy Reed. I was sitting at a red light on the way to a rehearsal, and it came on the radio, and I almost lost my mind. It hit me like, man, I gotta have some of that. And I went and bought harmonicas. I'd always kind of had a harmonica all my life, and playing little ditties on it, little Irish stuff, and but it came into a whole new light when I heard the blues guys playing harp, and I went right to it. I just went right to it, and I got on the job training from Buster Brown, Jimmy Reed, Sonny Boy, and like I said, it was segregation. So these guys would travel around the country by themselves and just play with the band that was there. So every once in a while, Jimmy Reed would bring a bass player with him, one-eyed bass player, by the way, who said was his manager, but to look at him, he was just a buddy, Anyway, we played, those guys came to town and they played in white clubs, and we were the band, and ended up we would go up to we got to working with Jimmy Reed and Sonny Boy quite a bit. And
did you learn from them?
Oh yeah, I learned. What do you mean did I learn from them? I was. I'll tell you a funny story. I was sitting in the dressing room at Jack's place. That's the club we played, where most of this happened back in the day. It was in Mansfield, Texas, which is just across the street from Fort Worth city limits. So Jack Pageant owned this great big dance hall, and he had a deal going with the police in Mansfield, and they had a neon kicking mule for a sign, and it was known all over town by young people trying to get out and get in it that you go to Jack's place on the weekend, and if the neon mule was kicking, all was well. Come on in. If it wasn't kicking, that meant there was going to be a raid. The Mansfield police were going to come in that night, so everybody knew when to jump, And it was one night we were playing with Jimmy Reed and Buster Brown. And I was sitting in the dressing room at Jack's place with them, listening to their stories, and just couldn't get enough of it. They were hitting a fifth of Old Grandad whiskey, cheap whiskey, I believe. And I didn't drink. And I was double hitting the bottle, sitting between them, and I missed the show completely. I learned a lesson that night. Don't drink with the big boys. Better yet, don't drink at all.
But I think I remember a story you shared with me a time before about Sonny Williamson, and maybe you weren't drinking. Yeah, Sonny Boy. Well, he taught you a little something else, didn't he?
Well, he did. We would drive up to Oklahoma on Sunday a lot and play with those guys when they'd come through. That was another regular stop, So we were with Sonny Boy, and we went to Lawton, Oklahoma, going to play, and we played a black club barbecue place called Mother's Place. And the first time I ever took a hit off a joint was with Sonny Boy in the dressing room at Mother's Place.
I love that. I love that. Who in the world has that story but you, Delbert McClinton? I was watching some Sonny Boy last night on YouTube. Do you know some of his videos have 11.5 million views?
Well, he's somebody.
He sure
He's
is.
a very important somebody.
And I was so happy to see that, because that means we're still honoring him and listening to that music.
Oh, that's part of our history. That it's a big part of our history. The fact that when I was 20s, those guys were still getting played on radio,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not anymore. I mean, well, radio's not anything like what it was anymore. There's blues stations on Sirius, but from my point of view, well, I don't know if I ought to say that or not. Let me put it this way: there's nothing more annoying than mediocre blues music.
Wow.
And there's nothing more moving than the real deal.
And
Sonny Boy, all of those guys were the real deal. They came from, when we were working those nights with Sonny Boy, we'd have to go pick him up at the Black Hotel on the black side of town in Fort Worth.
Did that bother you? Did you
It's
know that
always
was
bothered
wrong?
me. It's bothered me since when I was a little kid. I remember my mother grew up in Lubbock, and J.C. Penney's was one of the biggest stores,
Sure.
And I can remember walking around with her, and I saw these two water fountains, and one says white and one said colored. And I asked her what that means. What does that mean? And she fumbled around trying to tell me, which made no sense to me at all. And then as I grew up, I watched what was going on with Black people in my community and everywhere else as I grew and learned. And it's just bizarre, it's bizarre. Anyway, we all know what that is. And
We know what that is, and hopefully we're making progress.
Well, they're definitely making progress, and it's liable to be really ugly, but it's going to have to be because it can't go on.
No, I agree with you. But okay, I'm going to go back to my timeline. It says in 1962, Delbert McClinton, you met up with Bruce Chanel and you recorded the song "Hey Baby." How was that a big process? I mean, that harmonica line you play in there is just killer. It's one that everybody knows. Did that take a lot of rehearsal?
It didn't take any rehearsal at all.
What?
Bruce came into the studio that day, and I had gotten a few guys together, some of my band, and whoever I could get together for the session. And Bruce showed up, and he took his guitar out and started playing "Hey Baby," and I started playing that riff. Just bam! It just came out. So there you have it.
There you have it. Well, I'm going to ask everyone watching after the show, of course, to ask your smart speaker to play "Hey Baby" for you, because you want to re-listen after hearing Delbert talk about that song today, because it's really fun. You then went on to do a UK tour with him, and we have a poster promoting this UK tour. Look at what that says there. Okay, "Hey Baby," Bruce Chanel with Delbert McClinton. The opening act is a group called the Beatles. What? Did you know that when you heard them, did you know that you were seeing something big, something that was going to be happening?
Well, you got to put it in perspective, and I was almost 22 years old.
Oh my gosh, you were a baby still.
Yeah, it was the birth. It was during the birth of rock and roll. Really,
you were there.
I was there, and and we were young, and we were all going to change the world. It was magic.
Mm.
And the fact that I got to go to England with him, well, uh, it was the first time I took a midnight flight. What do you call them? A red
Was
eye
it red
flight.
eye?
Red
Uh-huh.
eye flight out of Dallas. First time I ever flew in my life to New York, and met up with Major Bill Smith, who was the guy that put Hey Baby out. And he's a whole other story, but we won't get caught up on him. Anyway, I met up with Major Bill in New York, and the next morning we flew to London. And I was the fantasy in my head was uh, London of my dreams, which was fog and drizzle and and uh,
Big
the
Ben.
period stuff,
Uh,
uh, ancient England. That was and I remember we were flying over there, and we started the descent, and we were above the clouds, and the sun was shining bright, and we descended into this mist. And by the time we could see London, it was the London of my dreams. It was drizzle. It was Sherlock Holmes on every corner. And somebody picked us up at the airport, and I sat in the front seat on the left side because and I thought, wow, this is just bizarre. And first thing I really realized is you got to watch out when you're walking the streets, because you look the wrong way and step out in the street and you're dead meat.
for sure.
And uh, I almost got ran over with a guy on a bicycle. I stepped right out in front of him, and he barely. Anyway, it was all so brand new to me. This was a different world. And we got to the hotel we were going to stay at, and when we got inside the hotel, I realized I'd left my bag of harmonicas in the cab. So I was
Oh,
freaking out,
oh,
and somebody at the hotel says, "Not a problem." Says there's a Horner manufacturing plant, right? Cab right away. So I jumped in a cab and I went to the Horner place, got all new harmonicas, got back to the hotel, and I was walking in. The guy at the desk says, "Guy in the cab left this for you." Said you left them in the cab. So I had a shitload of harmonicas. So that's how it started.
And were you impressed with the Beatles that night?
I was impressed. I was impressed with a lot of that. I was there for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was there for it, and
That's,
there was Frank Ifield. I remember had a big hit at that time called "I Remember You," of an
yeah.
old song,
Yeah.
and fell in with him. He was on the show, and I just met so many interesting people. Johnny Kidd and the Pirates. This guy walked around the stage with a patch over one eye and a sword. And every once in a while, he'd throw that sword in the stage to punctuate something. So there's
You've
the
got
best
to.
the best stories I just can't tell you.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine. And I could talk to you all day, but I'm sure you have other things to do. So I'm going to move down our timeline a little bit here. There is one story I want you to tell, because before we move to 1978, in November of 1963, you were on your way to Radio Shack. You were in the car. This story just gives me chills when I hear you. Can you? Forgot to silence my phone. That's a bad move on my part. Sorry about that. Tell me. Yeah, that was really bad. Tell me what you saw on that ride.
Well, I hesitate to say working, but I was hanging out with a friend of mine. He owned a little men's store called the Stag Shop, men's clothes. And of course, back in that time, everybody was dressing to the nines, And so I worked out there, hung out there mostly with him, and he'd pay me in a couple of shirts or a jacket or something. So actually, it was just hanging out, pretty much what it was. And he and I were looking at this paper from Radio Shack, and they had this thing they were selling called the Big Ear, and it was a big disc thing, and supposedly you could put it up to the wall and listen to everything in the other room, just clear as a bell. So we got to laughing about that and thinking about what we could do with that and how much fun that might be. And so he said, "Why don't you go with Radio Shack?" It didn't cost much. I don't know, $10 or $12. Nothing cost much back then. Anyway, I headed over there to pick one up. And the president, Kennedy, had been talking in downtown Fort Worth. And they were headed back out to Carswell Air Force Base to fly to Dallas. And on this road I was on, it was a 2-lane. And so they had his motorcade coming. So the police on motorcycles came down first and had everybody. There was, at this point, there was only one side of the road you could pull off onto. The other side was a cliff. So they had us all pulled off to the side of the road because the motorcade, president's motorcade was coming through. So there wasn't that many of us, probably maybe 8 or 9 cars that were in this spot that they had to pull over. Anyway, as he came by, he and the motorcade, and they were in the convertible Lincoln. Mm. And Kennedy and I made eye contact and waved at each other about, I don't know, 6 to 8 feet away. And I thought, wow, this is cool, So after they passed and we got back on the road, I went and picked up a Big Ear. And when I got back, I went in and I said, "Man, I just saw the president." And he said, "President's dead." Mm. So, yeah.
That story just, it just gives me chills anytime I hear you talk about that, because it was a matter of just 10, 15 minutes.
Well, it was about, from the time I saw it to the time he was shot was maybe an hour.
That must have been really affected you to know that.
Well, it did for and it still does. But I mean, you can imagine how gray and black the world went that day.
Oh,
it was insane.
Yeah.
But after that, the FBI came to see me.
To see you?
Yeah.
Why?
Because they found my name and number in Jack Ruby's little black book. Because I used to go over to Dallas and play his. He had burlesque joints, if you can imagine. Girls stripping with pasties on, and I had played some of his beer joints. We even played for strippers dancing. Their favorite thing was Watermelon Man and Peter Gunn.
Right. I just heard that on the radio yesterday. That's so funny. On Sirius. Well, that is just crazy. So the FBI investigates you after Kennedy was shot. Oh my God.
I'd gone to pick up a pizza, and when I came back, there was this no chrome green FBI looking Ford sitting in front of my house, just plain Jane as they get, And I remember thinking at the time, boy, that looks like a police car, or a federal car. And I went into my house and there was 2 FBI guys standing there. It didn't take them very long to figure out that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't have anything to do with it, thank goodness.
Yeah, it was, you can imagine.
Yeah. You can imagine. Well, you know what? I want to get to a little piece of hearing some of your music because we haven't done that yet, and we've been talking to you for a little bit. You had a gigantic hit over here in 1978, #1 country, Emmylou Harris, was singing your song, Two More,
Yeah.
there you are with Emmy Lou, and she was singing your song, Two More Bottles of Wine.
Right.
And we have a little bit of you singing that on The Kate, the show that you and I did together. So tell us a little bit about that song, because I believe it's based on a true life story.
Well, it was a true life story. In 72 or 71, I can't remember. Am I supposed to be talking over this?
Yep, you can talk over this. That's fine.
Okay.
We'll keep going.
Okay. So I was playing a beer joint in Fort Worth, and this woman came in that I had known for years and years, and I hadn't seen her in years and years. And she, her name was Margaret, or Maggie is what everybody called her. And she came in the beer joint we was playing, and for some reason, sparks flew between me and her that night. And we hooked up right after the show was over. We left together. And we were rocking. We were setting the world on fire. You know, we were doing the town, and all was well. Well, a friend of mine called me from California, Glenn Clark, who I had made a couple. We used to play together in Fort Worth. Well, he had moved out there with another old friend that I used to play with, who was a drummer, and they kept calling me and saying, "Man, you got to come out here. You got to come out here." So when Maggie came along, she had some mad money and a '66 Chrysler Imperial. And I said, "Hey, you want to go to LA?" She says, "You bet." So we went, and we got out there, and we drove out to Malibu Beach, up to the entrance to Topanga Canyon. And I called Glenn, and I said, "Well, we're at the bottom of the hill." So they came down to get us and guide us up to the house. And they lived on the side of a hill in Topanga. You've probably been through.
I know
Topanga.
that area, sure.
Okay, well, there was the house, and then dripping down the house was another room. It was dirt floor, kind of a storage room kind of thing. Well, we've been, on the road for a couple of days or however long, and so everybody wanted to shower. Well, they're on a septic tank up there, and ordinarily, you didn't. If there was just the two of them, he and his wife, and so another couple rode out there with us. So there were four of us there, and we all took a shower. And for a place for Maggie and I to sleep, they had an old mattress that we laid on the dirt floor down there to sleep on.
Very glamorous.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're living the life, baby. So during the night, when I got up to go relieve myself, my shoes were soggy. The septic had overflowed.
Gosh.
And so we were all sleeping in slime, But
you had two more bottles of wine. And it was all right.
Anyway, we didn't sleep down there again. We had to go find a place, and we found a place in Venice to live. Me and Glenn and Maggie, and we rented this place. I can't remember the name of it, but the name of it on the street was Methadone Manor. And the first thing we were told when we moved in says, "Don't walk around barefoot on the roof because there's needles laying everywhere."
Oh man!
had 4 locks on the door. The room was painted black, ceiling, walls, and floor. The sink in the bathroom was painted black. So that's where we moved in and made home. So that went on for a short time, and Maggie had had enough, and she told me, that I'm out of here.
Mm.
So this is a good part. There was only 2 rooms. It was an apartment with a little tiny kitchen. So there was this, in the room that Maggie and I got, there was a double closet. We took the doors off of it and took our mattress. I don't know where we got a mattress, and shoved it up in there to where we had about, I don't know, 3.5 feet of privacy. We hung a sheer around them, and Glenn was 12 feet away in the other room, but that's the only privacy we had was scooting up into that closet area and hanging a sheer over it.
Delbert,
Anyway,
that's being young in the music business, right?
oh man, well, you can't kill them, They
Well,
kill
oh my,
themselves, but you can't kill them. So she left, and I sat there on that mattress and wrote 2 more bottles of wine.
mm. And that sure started a whole new phase of your career.
It did.
Well, we're going to run short of time soon, so I'm going to run through a couple other things that happened. You had your gigantic hit with just your vocal, "Giving It Up for Your Love" was number 8. That was a gigantic hit for you. 1992, first Grammy with Bonnie Raitt.
Yeah.
Remind us of that song.
Well, that was Good Man, Good Woman.
Yeah, best rock performance for a duo, I think.
Yes.
Right? That's the award.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
that was.
Bonnie and I have been friends for some time, and we had always said, well, we need to make a record together, Well, we were both kind of in the same league until she got that first big Nick of Time. Was that it? Was that the name?
Right, Nick of Time. Ooh, that was a heck of an album.
Oh, a perfect statement for it too. Anyway, she had just exploded, and she called me and said, I've got a song for us to do. So I flew out to LA, and she had already done her part on it. And I sang my part, and yada, yada, yada. It went on to win a Grammy. And
great tune. Yeah. Love hearing your voice on that. Well, I have kept you for a long time, so I'm going to get down to the bottom where you win a bunch more Grammys. And then just a couple months ago, you take home the Grammy for Best Traditional Blues Album for your album Tall, Dark, and Handsome with your band, with your fabulous band. Look at them there.
Yes, they are. They're great.
Yeah, they are fantastic. And I think you've actually said they're one of the finest bands you've ever played with.
Well, they are not they are the best band I've ever played with. And I love every one of those guys more than anything. And the fact that we won a Grammy together, that's what's most important to me. Grammys, 2 days after the Grammys are over, nobody knows who won what. It's the Grammys is kind of a self-serving thing that it just involves a whole lot of people yahooing, and it's fun, but it's jive. It's mostly just jive,
You deserve that Grammy. I know from the first minute I listened to it.
I agree.
From the first moment I listened to it, what struck me about that album is they were songs you wrote or wrote with your band members, and it was rock and roll for adults. It's music that it's not about some sappy puppy love. It's about real situations that people who are growing bolder experience.
Well, thank you for noticing.
Oh my God.
They're all short stories,
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun to do that.
Well, that's why I wanted you here today, because you make life fun. You keep having fun. You don't stop. You're still writing. You've got lots of songs you're writing now. Is there a new project coming up?
As a matter of fact, there is. And I did it about a month ago. All my life, I've wanted to. I grew up big Hank Williams fan, big Hank Williams fan. Uh, and I went out and recorded six Hank Williams songs. And in Nashville, you can find the players to do that. And I got a hold of Chris Scruggs, and he put a band together, and we went out and did these recordings just like Hank did them in the 40s. No drums, just just instruments and vocals. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And it sounds so good. And it sounds exactly like Hank Williams' band.
Wow.
Chris Scruggs knows more about Hank Williams' life than Hank Williams did. Anybody. Anyway, I got to the session, and I had met Chris before, but didn't really know him. You know what I mean? I walked into the session. I didn't know anybody in there. Anybody. They're all players from a different style, genuine country music. I didn't know any of the guys. And we had no rehearsal. We were all social distancing, and of course so we weren't glad handing and slapping each other on the back. I walked in and went right into the booth, just said hello to everybody and looked and noticed I didn't know anybody. And Chris was the leader on the session, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do first?" And I said, "Well, let's do this." He said, "What key?" I said, "Well, I think the same key as Hank did it in." And he kicked it off, and we did it. It's crazy.
When will we be able to hear that?
Oh, I don't know. Look at the world we're living in, In less than 3.5 hours, we recorded half a record.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they knew it note for note. And I did too, and we just bam, 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 bam. And when I left there that day, my head was spinning because I thought, my God, what happened? Because we did 8 songs in less, two songs of mine and 6 of his. We did the songs of mine Hank style.
I can't wait to hear this.
Well, I could send you a couple of them to listen to if you send me a place to send them.
You got it. I will do that. Hey, Delbert, I just want to say thank you for the years of music and that you keep going, that you have more to give, that you're just finishing an album, that you are not afraid and you are growing bolder. And I thank you for that. And I wish you the best 80th birthday. I hope you have a great
thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing it with us.
Laura, thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Okay, Delbert McClinton, happy 80th birthday. And you know what? If you are interested in reading Delbert's new book, he has a book called One of the Fortunate Few. And you can find out all about Delbert's book, his music, when that new album comes out. All of that is available on delbert.com. You can find it right there on delbert.com. He is a terrific guy. And I got to tell you, that book, there are so many stories. I mean, you heard him go today. We could have kept going, but there is a lot more in his book, and I just adore him. So now I had promised you a Halloween snack. So we are going to share with you a little Halloween snack. They're called Monster Teeth. Take a look. There they are. Now, my mom attempted to help me make these this morning. I'm showing you. My mom says she's a little worried to show you the ones she made. She's pulling them out of the fridge. They're adorable. They're healthy. I was looking for something that would be easy for us to make, that would be healthy, a healthy snack. So, Mike, could you show us that picture once more, the one from the magazine? Yeah, look at that. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so Mom made some for us this morning. Look, all right, maybe not as good as the magazine, but these are so much fun. We've got apple slices smeared with a little peanut butter, and then we have our yogurt colored raisins for teeth. And I think they're great. My mom is awesome. She's as bold as it gets, okay? This lady never stops. And she was here at 8 o'clock in the morning making monster teeth for you. So go, Mom. And how about you trying to make some of these to set up for your Halloween celebration this year? I'm not going to try to make one for you because we're running out of time. So let me tell you where we are now. We are at the time where we are going to go back. I mentioned Ghostbusters earlier. I think I did. Did I mention Ghostbusters? That the Ghostbusters are not having a lot of opportunity right now because of the pandemic. They can't go into the houses and bust the ghosts because they're not allowed in. Well, I have ghosts on the mind because of Halloween. So our meme today is we came, we saw, we kicked its ass. Do you remember that? Dr. Peter Venkman, Bill Murray from Ghostbusters 1984. And that, I just think that's one of the funniest lines ever. The Ghostbusters kicked arse. Delbert McClinton, oh yeah, he kicks arse. And now, you and me, we got to kick some arse, okay? And that leads me to what's on my mind. That creepy pandemic, it keeps coming back, like Jason from the horror movie. We're up to 1 infection a second now. I mean, that is madness. So we got to kick some arse, people. This is about you and me now. We got to listen to the science. We got to get out there and do what we have to do to be the Ghostbusters. Protect ourselves, protect each other, protect our community. And we are going to do that together with harmony and kindness and smarts. And we can do it. We can kick some arse. So it's up to you and me. Once again, let's do it. Let's be the Ghostbusters in our family to keep everybody safe. I want to thank everyone who was with us today. This was such a fun show. I invite you to have a happy Halloween, listen to some Delbert music, make yourself some monster teeth, and overall, stay safe, be healthy, vote, and always be kind. Thanks for being with us today. I'll see you in December. I'm Laura Savini for Growing Bolder. What's next?
Growing bolder, what's next?